Oh my god, let's jump right into it, guys. Welcome back to the Cunt Down. Alright? And you ready to beat a dead horse? That's right, the Immortal. Okay, listen, I know I talk about this game every third week of the month, but I don't care. And there seems to be this trend about, like, all the, powers that be on YouTube like to talk down about the Immortal. Well, I got news for you. Fuck them all, big and small. This game, this game is absolute perfection. I'll go that far. Okay, the game is hard. You have to figure out some puzzles. Okay? That's why God gave you a brain! I'm going to tell you something right now. It seems like if a game doesn't impress somebody within the 10-minute review they do of it, all of a sudden they bash it to pieces. And then all these young, dumb millennials come out and talk shit about the game on their stupid top 10 lists that they come out with that they think they know so much about. Well, let me tell you something right now. The Immortal was probably one of my purest Sega Genesis experiences. I can remember drumming up the money one summer. Probably mowing lawns. Who knows what you do when you're a kid to make money? You do anything. I used to go down out to the Nassau Coliseum with my next door neighbor who owned a baseball card shop. And I'd walk around the Nassau Coliseum selling baseball cards. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You think it was small time? He gave me a Reggie Jackson rookie once, a Ted Williams, what was the other card? I forgot what year the cards were. It was a Pete Rose and another heavy hitting baseball card. Anyhow, I remember I went out with these cards and he wanted me to sell them. So I looked like some dumb kid that got them from his father or something like that. He told me how much he wanted to get minimum for each card. Because these guys were sharks, man. They saw a kid come in with expensive baseball cards with a little story like, these are my dad's, They were all over it. So I remember I wound up selling those baseball cards. I had $3,500 cash. Walking around the Coliseum. I could have walked right out the front door and took a bus. If the guy didn't live right next door to me. Anyhow. I'd do at the baseball card show and he'd throw me $60. Now $60 in the 1980s for a kid not old enough to have a job yet was insane amount of money. Insane. But I remember I went into Electronics Boutique and I saw this game right here. And what magic. Number one, it was Electronic Arts. And listen, Electronic Arts was swinging a big dick back in the day, baby. I don't know what they are now. What kind of nonsense they're putting out now. It's games that'll make you fucking fall asleep. But Electronic Arts back in the day, man, they were porting over all the Amiga games, all these computer games. I mean, this was the game I've been searching for. This was wizards and warriors and scrolls and spells and blood and guts and death and goblins and trolls. And mysticism, you understand? And puzzles. Just take a look at this box. As a kid, a gut-wrenching nightmare come to life. Terror reigns in this dungeon lair. Ba 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 ba. Okay, this is what I wanted to see. The specs. Here we go. Okay. 8 lethal levels, 50 chambers filled with danger and deception, full screen real-time combat against creation's most evil creatures, over 30 wickedly cunning, fully animated deaths await, digitized soundtrack. You don't understand what this did. My head would explode. Guys, let me explain something to you right now. This game, you were looking for this wizard. Number one, you were a wizard. Okay? Every role-playing game I ever played, I didn't want to be the fighter. I didn't want to be the barbarian. The thief. I had no interest in being the thief or the whatever cockamamie knight. I wanted to be the mage. I wanted to be the magician. I wanted to be the wizard. And they were always grossly underpowered in the beginning. And they were always the hardest character to get through the game with until the end, where they built up their spells. And that's when all hell broke loose. And you got your revenge. So here we go. The Immortal had these beautiful graphics. These beautiful isometric graphics. There was no fooling around here. There was no cartoony graphics going on here. This was the real deal, man. This was Dungeons. I wanted Dungeons and Dragons put on the screen. I can remember Christmases at my grandmother's house. Everybody was sitting there and talking, all worried about Cousin Jimmy because he was playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, what? What is this? Oh, their friends, people kill each other playing this game in real life. And I was like, what? I didn't know what this Dungeons and Dragons, it seemed like it brought you into some different realm where you went in, it like lost your sanity. I'm all in. I wanted part of it. Where do I play this Dungeons and Dragons? I didn't know. But here it seemed to me, maybe they were putting a little piece of that Dungeons and Dragons onto my television screen. And I wanted it. Now you're looking for this wizard named Mortimer. He's trapped down below. And what wonderful graphical effects this had. You would see Mortimer come out of a candle. And it was like, you'd see all these like, what do you call them? Almost like ashes or embers when the candle would go up and you'd see Mortimer. And then when he'd disappear, you'd see all these little like, remnants, I don't know, like pixels fall down. Gorgeous graphics. For the time, amazing graphics. Isometric view, 3-dimensional chambers. And you're embroiled, you're in these chambers where death was around every corner. Your very first chamber, you take one wrong step and you fall into the ground. And I remember you would try to hold yourself with your staff, and then your staff would break and you'd fall to your death. Or these worms would come out of the ground and they'd bite you. And there were death scenes all over the place. Dying was a privilege in this game. There goes the fucking mic. Are you serious right now? All right. Are we still on? Where were we? Sip of coffee. That was the clever thing about this game. It was like, kill me. Kill me more. I want to see more. Kill me! So it wasn't this big disappointment when you died. Isn't that something? It was always something new. And then you had to deal with these factions, these two rival factions of trolls and goblins. And you would get to the point where you would do these clever tricks to get the trolls to fight each other, or to scare the trolls, or scare the goblins. Or you'd meet the Troll King, and eventually the Goblin King wanted to talk to you, and he wanted you to help them out, and then they would help you out. So along this puzzle-solving journey, you would get involved in this war between goblins and trolls. And Jesus Christ, you would go to battle. And let me tell you something right now. You would get into a fight with either a goblin or a troll, or even a spider. And it would turn into this knife and sword fight. Number one, your way of attack as a wizard was you had this like dagger. Basically a useless weapon. But you had to learn how to dodge attacks. And it was all about timing. You just had to time it right. But once you got the timing down, oh, it was great. You would sit there and duck, 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 until the goblin lost his stamina, and then you'd slash, 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 slash. And then his stamina would go back up, and then he'd attack, and you'd duck, 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 then slash, slash, slash. And ultimately ended with the most gruesome fatalities I think that might have ever been captured in video gaming history. And I mean that. I mean, we're talking about taking your dagger and slicing a troll or a goblin right down the center, and then the two halves of his body would flop over, guts spill out onto the floor, and it would have the most horrendous sound effects. I've talked about this one before, but you could sit there and cut a guy's face off, and you see his face just land and skin on the floor, and he's like, like I don't know, he's like, it's horrifying. Or you take your magic staff and you tap their head, and their head explodes. And their body just flops on the floor. Dum, 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 dum. Or you turn them to stone and they crumble. Or lightning strikes them and their skin falls down and they're nothing but a skeleton. And the great part about the Immortal, the part about the Immortal, sip of coffee, tip my hat, is that when you killed one of these goblins, their body remained on the floor. You would go into another chamber, come back, and their body was still on the floor. The thing that used to irk me the most about video games is when you would kill an enemy and the body would disappear. Huh? What? What, did it just disappear into some programming ether? No! I want to see my accomplishment laying there! Anyhow. And then you would search their bodies and find satchels full of bait. Remember, you'd go into a room and there'd be like a pile of dirt on the floor, and there'd be a bunch of like goblins in there, and you'd go and you'd throw these mushroom spores onto the dirt and then run out of the room before the goblins got to you. And then you'd go back in the room and they were all dead inside because mushrooms had grown from these spores and killed all the I mean, these clever things. Or you'd meet a guy toiling in the corner with a pickaxe, chipping away at a jewel with a nasty attitude. But you'd find a potion of I gotta pour some coffee for this one. like a potion of compliance. And you give him the potion, and he'd wind up giving you the gem that you needed to place in a certain... The king would tell you a certain order to place the gems on the floor, and then a door would open up. Or you'd have an amulet that you had to place in this little beam of sunlight that was coming through a crack in the wall. You'd place it on the floor, and another door would open up. And at the end of each level, you would get a code. How wonderful. A code. You complete the level, I don't have to go back there. To that nightmare. That living nightmare! I can continue now. Anytime. Plug it in, I got my code. I can continue. And there would be times where I'd get stuck for weeks trying to figure out one of these cryptic puzzles. And they weren't garbage puzzles like they put in video games now. Trust me, I've played some video games where they have some ridiculous puzzles. These puzzles, they required a lot of thought. They were very, very vague. And there was no strategy guide and there was no internet. So if you couldn't figure it out yourself, Foxville for you. And the music. The music. Jerry, cue the music. Have you ever heard more perfect music to go lurking to? I haven't. Shut it off. If the game was insane, the music was even more insane. I don't know who's this Will Harvey guy. Here we go. Who's this Will Harvey Presents? Who is this maniac? Anyhow, the music is just masterful. I mean, it's that Sega Genesis, it's these organs, and I don't know what, like, this guy programming it was wearing a robe with stars and moons on it. This game is something else. Let me tell you something right now. The Immortal folks, I tell you what, give it a chance. You could get a red carpet. Some guy would give you a red carpet because there were so many traps on the floor. He'd say, "Yeah, take this red carpet. You're gonna need it on the next few chambers because you're gonna wind up getting stuck by spikes or everything. You gotta hover. You'd hop on this. Next thing you know, you're on a red carpet. What? And you're cruising around the chambers, and then you go down to another level, and you're on a barrel going through this waterway, this canal system, and you're rowing on the barrel with your staff. Oh my God! And listen, the end of the game, the final boss, you're facing off against this fucking dragon. This huge dragon that comes out of the floor, like it's like you couldn't write a movie about it. You're like, oh my God, I'm gonna face off against a dragon now. It was like the ultimate finale. The ultimate finale. Guys, take it from me. The Immortal is a Sega Genesis classic. And if you played the first level and you put it down, I understand why you think the game is a piece of shit. But if you beat this game, trust me, you'll find a new love for it. The Immortal, classic Sega Genesis. I'm done here. You just tuned in to the greatest video game program in the history of human civilization. And you better believe that.